middle. Hello, hi friends. Welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. Good to see you all. Thanks for joining us today. Great to have you here once again. As always, we'll just wait a few minutes and let people kind of finish popping in here, and then we'll kind of get started with the program. If you're out there on Facebook and YouTube, welcome as well. We will put some links in the chat coming up soon if you wanted to join. If you wanted to join the Zoom call for some live engagement, you could hop in there. We'll put some links in the chat for you as well coming up soon. And yeah, it's good to have people here. I'm excited about the session. Got some we always like to have some interesting guests trying to push the boundaries of things today, and I think today suits that profile. And we might as well sort of start to jump into it. I know a couple other people will probably hop in here, but let me spotlight myself and I'll spotlight our guest Mark today, and we'll start jumping into it. All right. So, well, first of all, I'm always like to welcome everybody here, and if you're new, just tell you what exactly we're doing. So I'll say, welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. We gather here every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world. This could include manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal here is to become better at our craft, to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses. It's an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And you can also subscribe to this weekly Saturday session called Piano Tech Radio Hour for just $16 a month. You get direct access to each week's private Zoom call, which we're doing right now, as well as you get the archival recordings of over 190 episodes in our member area. That's right. We've been doing this, I guess, almost like 4 years. We're approaching that mark. Pretty cool. And you can subscribe to Piano Tech Radio Hour by going to bit.ly/join PTRH at bit.ly/join PTRH. And then before we introduce today's guest, just to give you guys a heads up on all the things that are going on, we'll also put some links in the Zoom chat for this stuff, and we'll put some links in the Facebook chat as well. You can get written summaries and explanations of masterclasses in the vault, and you can do that by checking out our blog. That's pianotechniciansmasterclass.substack.com. A lot of you might not know that this exists yet. We haven't really made the announcement on the radio hour, but we are starting to include these in our emails. And what we're doing on Substack is we're going to the archives of our content, stuff that we were filming since 2017, and we're writing articles so you can get a little peek into what the content contains. And then if it interests you, of course, you can jump in and grab the recordings. And then also you can follow us on social media. I feel amiss that I haven't been promoting our social media channels too much, but let's get started doing that. You can do at Piano Technicians, Piano Tech Master Class on Facebook, and you can also do at Piano Tech Masterclass on YouTube, and we'll make sure and get you other links to follow us in the future as well. We appreciate your support. And then finally, we have a masterclass coming up that we're really excited about on March 28th with Jason Castle. He's going to be talking about harpsichord work. So for all of you out there that have some harpsichords in your lives and you look at it and go, man, I hope I don't screw that thing up, Jason is going to walk you through the basics of, hey, how do you care for that, make sure it stays in good shape, and make sure it's working properly. So you can subscribe to that at the link we'll put in the chat, and you get early bird pricing if you sign up now, and the price goes up over time. It's only a few weeks away, so jump on in early. All right, let us transition to our special guest for today. I'll do an intro here. This is Mark Cerisano. You may already have seen him around on the internet and so forth. He has been tuning pianos since 2000 and teaching people how to tune, repair, and regulate pianos since 2005. He does this through his website, mrtuner.com, and more recently, the International Piano Technicians School, which can be found at ipts.online. He brings to the job of training technicians his experience as a mechanical engineer, a high school teacher of music, math, and other subjects. His experience as a pro musician and his experience as a professional piano technician have also been instrumental in his work. Since developing a unique tuning system, which he calls the Go Ape system, and that stands for accurate, precise, and efficient piano tunings, he has been publishing multiple times in the Piano Technicians Journal. He's given multiple online classes in over a dozen other countries around the world and has had 4 books published on piano tuning. He's been a presenter at the annual PTG convention and Technical Institute in Denver, Colorado in 2015, and will be presenting 2 classes on his unique tuning systems in Reno, Nevada, up here in summer of 2024. So make sure you get your tickets to the convention coming up and keep track of Mark. We're going to learn more about him today. Mark, welcome.
Hello. Hi.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Sure.
I'm honored.
Yeah, it's great. It's an honor to have you as well. Um, I want to get started with just a little bit of your background so people can find out more about you and sort of where you came from. So, what is your first encounters with music and the piano? What's been your musical journey so far?
I studied jazz performance at McGill, and we had a piano proficiency class. So that's where I sort of started learning how to play the piano. And then after that, just teaching myself mostly. And then when I became a piano technician, I thought I should know more how to play it better. So I really dug in there and tried to get some skills at that. So yeah, I remember when I was a little kid, we had an old piano in the basement. I was fascinated with how it worked. I remember when I was an engineer, I bought my mother a piano, and this was a crazy piano. It had no jacks, and it was small enough that I could carry it out of my basement by myself. But I would not recommend doing that.
Okay.
I had to take it all apart, and then I had my belt. I put my belt around the plate and around my shoulder, and I lifted it up that way, but my back was like completely red when I got out of the basement. Yeah.
Wow, congratulations. I'd love
That's
to
some
see
of
that
my early
piano and
memories.
view it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's some of my early memories of the piano.
Awesome. Well, it's a testament to your ambition, your fortitude, and your persistence.
It's maybe stupidity as well. Who knows?
Actually, I know several people that also maybe a testament to your engineering mind. I do know a handful of guys that are moving pianos on their own, even
Mm,
bigger than a small piano. They're typically using equipment, not the like not like the mechanical fancy stuff either. So with a lever, I guess it was Archimedes said, I can move the planet. So
mm.
um, I'll also mention here, I was just checking on our live stream. If you're out there on YouTube and Facebook, it might be that we just started the live stream. I may have forgotten to kick it out there. So just a reminder, you're here with us at Piano Tech Radio Hour. We'll put some links in the chat if you want to join us on Zoom. Our guest today is Mark Cerisano, and we'll be diving deeper into the conversation here. Next question I wanted to get into with, your training in the sciences and engineering. What I sort of have this in common with you in that I've been in the arts, I've been in the sciences, been entrepreneurial, sort of mixing all these different things. So I kind of get it, but other people are like, oh man, I don't know. I just want to do one or the other, focus on something. What, what's the mix of engineering and music? Was it music first and then engineering then music? Was it all
There,
together?
it was, I was pursuing both in high school. And then even when I studied engineering, I was still involved in the bands and taking lessons on trumpet at Queens. And then after graduating as an engineer, I went to McGill for jazz trumpet. And then after that, went to work as an engineer for a couple of years. And that's when I made the commitment that the career I would need to have a career in music. You know, they say that art, you don't choose art, art chooses you. So I feel that's what happened with me.
Yeah. So what kind of job in engineering did you do? I know you were a
Mechanic.
teacher for a while. So yeah.
I was a mechanical engineer. I was modifying designs from North America, from Europe. I was modifying designs from Europe to North America to actually, it's interesting, to take air, compress it down, get rid of all the moisture, and then put it through these polymer filters. They're just basically plastic that's shaped like a net, really, and the net allows the larger I don't can't remember if it was oxygen or nitrogen molecules to escape, leaving a nitrogen. Yeah, the oxygen escaped, and the nitrogen-rich gas inside, and then they would just pump this into like a warehouse that had apples, for example. So
Mm,
you would die if you went in there because there's no oxygen or it's low oxygen, but the apples wouldn't rot
right.
because there's no oxygen for the bacteria. Yeah. So it took me about 2 years to do that, and then the project was finished, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to go back, and I went back to school and studied teaching.
Hmm.
You know, I became a music teacher, went and taught for 8 years, and during that time, that's when I joined the PTG and got all the training, you know, that allowed me to become a registered piano technician.
Yeah. What a journey. Um, McGill's a great school. I think of Daniel Levitin when I think of McGill. Do you know
Oh,
Daniel
really?
Levitin?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I've met him. He's brilliant.
Yeah, I feel like he's in the future of this program or a spinoff. I think we might be able to get him as a guest. Um, and especially because he's got the neuroscience.
Oh, you're thinking of a different guy. Yeah, Dan Levitan. Dan Levitan is the guy who invented the C lever, but there's also
Yeah,
a Dan Levitan from McGill who wrote the book Your Brain
brain
on
on music.
Music. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a different guy. Yeah.
yeah. I actually remember when I first met. So Ken Eshte had mentored me at Northwestern University here in Chicago earlier on in my progress, and then he knew I was moving to New York, and he said, "Oh, you got to meet Dan Levitan. I went to North Bennett with him, and you guys should connect." And at the time, I didn't know who he was, but I did know who Dan Levitin, the neuroscience music guy, was. And I was like, oh, maybe it's the same person, but they're spelled slightly differently.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But if you're not familiar with the other sort of Dan Levitin, it's Levitan with an A at the end or Levitin with an I at the end. You should definitely
Uh,
check out both of them.
yeah,
Fascinating
yeah.
guys. Um, so along the way here, you've done all these different things. You've gotten into the tuning and technical stuff with pianos, and you somewhere along the way you feel like I'm developing my own system. I want to like kind of contribute something here to how things are done. How did that evolve? Was that earlier on? Did you have inklings of that when you were first studying, or did it come after a few years?
Well, I enjoy teaching. I love teaching. Very passionate about it. I enjoy watching people learn, get the aha moment, and improve. And I like being part of that. So I started teaching tuning. And then as I was teaching, I was getting these questions like that I couldn't answer. And these are common questions, like if you're talking about tuning a fourth wide, you make the sixth faster than the third, and people would say, "Well, how much faster?" And I'd be like, "A little bit." Like as an engineer, like we want to quantify things, and that was making it difficult. And then what I noticed was that there's a certain comment out there that people will say tune 1,000 pianos and then you'll know, and there's value in that because it works, but it takes a long time. So that's when I tried to figure out a better way that would not just help people get better results, but would answer their questions. And in that process, I discovered bandpass filters, which allow you to filter the beat rates of intervals so that all you hear is the clean beat rate. And then you can actually measure them very accurately. And so I did little things like tuned temperament and then measured the progression of my major thirds and found out that they were not. And that's when I really started to realize that we
They
do
were not
not
progressing. They were not
know,
progressing by speed. Yeah,
but I thought they were.
you thought they were. Yeah.
That's when I started to realize that we do not hear what we think we hear. And I just wrote an article for the journal recently on auditory illusion. And there's a lot of examples of that where we think we hear something and it's just not there. And so the one idea that we teach our students at the IPTS is when you're trying to hear beat rates to be a certain way, don't try to hear them be a certain way, because if they're close but wrong, you'll hear them as correct and you won't fix it. Try to hear them wrong. Like if you have 3 beat rates you want to hear slow, medium, fast, don't. Try to hear them as slow, slow, fast, or slow, fast, fast. And that proves that they're not progressive. And I've done this in class. I've had beat rates measured that are exactly the same speed. And then I ask the students who already know that these are the same speed. And I ask them, try to hear the second beat speed faster. And then I play them and they're like, yeah, I can hear it faster. Then I say, try to hear the second one slower now. And I play them and they say, yeah, I can hear them slower. It's the brain being totally, the ear being totally influenced by the brain. That's why we have to really be clear about what we're asking our ear to hear.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I did some audio signal processing as part of my PhD. So I studied these bird songs, and then in order to kind of classify the different, we call them syllables, the different parts of the song that the birds sing, like kind of notes or whatever. Yeah, we would use signal processing and to define frequencies and look at like Fourier transforms and things like that. And it was also interesting as I was doing that to look at piano tuning and be like, oh yeah, you could sort of measure this stuff better and take a look at it and look at a spectrogram and all these things that we haven't traditionally been looked at,
Yeah.
when you're talking about piano tuning. And I have a similar experience, like when probably a lot of us, when we first started tuning, it's just like whatever person taught you, whatever they taught you, they knew how much they knew. And a significant portion was you just feel it, right? Whatever. And again, I think there is something to be said for our subconscious abilities, our ability to sort of feel things. But I think you have a really good point.
You have to get
Especially
there.
you have to get there, right? And
Yeah.
it helps to have a good foundation in that with some objective resource, right? Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's great. So are there any other things here? I know what you've tried to do is focus on what can be improved, about our tuning processes, or specifically things that you've encountered that, you think could be done better, but maybe it's not a generally accepted practice. Are there any other significant limitations of kind of the traditional tuning methods that you've noticed, and what do you, and that you think can help, uh, beginners get better more quickly?
Well, I've done some work on ETDs, comparing them to oral tunings, and the conclusion I've come to is it doesn't matter how you tune the piano. What matters is that your unisons are clean and stable. Now, the problem with that is a clean unison is one that does not have certain features. Like that's the basic remedial level of a unison. We're not talking about blooming unisons or swelling unisons. We're talking about unisons that are fit inside an ideal description, which is no beating partials. But the other more advanced way of describing the unisons is that they should not have any changing vowel sounds. Because I'm not sure if you're aware, but the tone of a note is determined by the presence of the higher partials. And when you play a note, like on a trumpet or a clarinet, the higher partials are very loud only at the beginning. So they did this study where they recorded professional musicians playing one note on a clarinet, violin, trumpet, and then they cut off the attack and then played it back to them, and they couldn't tell what instrument it was. Have you heard that
Hmm.
study?
I haven't read their study, but
Yeah,
you might have noticed I'm kind of smiling. I was listening to a recording recently. I have no idea what it was, but there was some sort of, I think it was like a violin part or something like that. But the way that it was mixed, the way that it was produced, I kept hearing the violin part and be like, it sounds like somebody singing. Like, is that
yeah,
somebody singing? Right? It's that's kind of like a just an everyday experience of what you're talking about. It's the
yeah,
attack on a lot of these timbres that you hear, timbers, I forget how you pronounce it, that defines a lot of what we
yeah.
perceive, right?
So if you have my definition of a clean unison is one where the partials all decay at the same rate. If you have one partial decaying more than another, or decaying and then coming back, you wouldn't really call it a beat, and you wouldn't be able to hear the beat. But what you do hear is a change in the vowel sound. So I describe it as the unison talking to you, like Murray, Maori. If that's happening, the unison is not clean enough. But if you can't hear it, you'll think it's clean. And that's the thing that people have trouble with, is if they can't hear it, it must be clean. Yet when we use the band pass filter, it's there.
Hmm.
We filter off the first four partials, and you can see the volume of the partial going down and up again. It's like, that's not ideal. That's not, we can try and do better. And so the evaluation procedure that we use at the school with these bandpass filters is so transparent that if a student fails a unit and they say, I should pass, then they pass. Because they never say that. If they don't pass, they know exactly. In fact, if they get a low mark, like an 80 is a pass. If they get 82, 83, they'll often say, I want to do it again because I know what I have to improve. And that's the power of these bandpass filters, which are free. It's free software. We use
Sure.
Ocean Audio. Ocean Audio is great because you can select like an interval, and it'll loop it, and then you can just change the band pass limits, and you can just find the beating partial, and then as it's looping. It's a good tool. OCENAUDIO.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I've used Audacity. Audacity also has some
Yeah,
functionality where you
I
can
used to
do,
use Audacity, but like it doesn't have the sliding things that you can use in real time.
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a video of you doing that. It was interesting. Um, so yeah, I mean, I feel like a mind like mine and yours appreciates this type of thing. I think some people like these sort of technical explications of things, and because they have these nagging questions, right? I need to know how it works in order to kind of like wrap my head around what I'm doing. And I do notice that, as I'm sure you have, there's other people who just
Yeah.
their brain shuts off with the technical
Mm.
explication. It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
tell it to me differently, or I want to
Well,
think about it in a
my
different way.
brain shuts off too when I'm listening to technical explanations. As a teacher, I have to just be aware of when that's happening and try to like stop and give people time to soak it in.
Yeah.
But to your point, yes, there are some people like this method I've discovered or developed. I haven't really discovered. It's been around for years. Like there's two things. One is how we evaluate students, but the other is how we tune. And a lot of the stuff we teach is old stuff that people just don't use much. But the masters do. Like high level people will do this. I'll be teaching, and a lot of times high level concert technicians will say, "Oh, that's why I do that."
Hmm.
So a lot of this stuff can be learned intuitively, but yeah, it's not for everyone. That's for sure. Yeah, like
Hmm.
for some people, they'll never learn how to tune a piano my way.
Hmm.
So for them, learning the other way, the holistic way, the intuitive approach, it might take longer, but longer is better than never, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, definitely worth at least taking a look at, I think. But that's my approach is like think of all the different angles you can learn something from, try them all, and then put them all in your
Yeah.
basket and take out the tools that are most useful for you. Um,
Yeah,
you've
nice.
also you also think about like settling the string maybe in a way that might be unique, I think sometimes, right? Like managing the non-speaking length,
Hmm.
maybe not having a different approach to test blows or kind of a different way of explaining test blows and obtaining stability. What are your thoughts on that?
So that's one of the areas where when I'm explaining we teach to experienced concert technicians, that's where they'll say, "Oh, that's why I do that." So just to boil it down, what we try to do is set the string, not the pin. So setting the pin now has a different definition depending on who you're talking to. What I consider setting the pin is thinking about putting the pin, the tuning pin, in a position such that when you remove your hammer, it doesn't move. But other people think of it more along the lines of what I'm trying to do, which is set the string. And you set the string by tuning so that the pin is left in a position that makes the string stable, right? And so we do that. We think about this as leaving the non-speaking length tension, that's the tension of the string between the V-bar or A-graph and the tuning pin, leaving that at the correct tension, which is generally thought to be higher than the speaking length. So when we think of it that way, then we can quickly know what the problem is if the string isn't stable. If the string goes sharp, the non-speaking length tension is too high. If it goes flat, the non-speaking length tension was too low. It's simple as that. And then what we do is we just retune the string and modify the non-speaking length tension. And how we do that is by adjusting how much the pin is bending during the tuning. Now, when you turn the pin, it's always bending, right? So when you let go, it unbends. And if you can take it a little farther and bend the pin on purpose, which is what Dan Levitan does. He invented the C lever to eliminate bending because you are turning the pin with the force being applied beside the pin. It comes up like this. And when he did that, he found out that he couldn't tune the stable string. So now he uses it to turn the pin and bend it on purpose. If you watch him tune, and this is something that used to get me in a lot of trouble, not as much anymore because more people are understanding that even if you choose not to bend the pin on purpose, you are bending it when you turn the pin. So we can change the hammer angle, and that will change how much the pin is bending and how much it unbends, and that will change where the non-speaking length tension is when we let go of the hammer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
feedback. It's a strong
Mm-hmm.
feedback. If the string goes sharp, you retune it, leaving less non-speaking length tension. Works every time, every time.
That sounds interesting. Yeah, I can identify with, you know, tuning a piano and you have a technique that you use to settle the pins and the strings or whatever you want to think you're doing. And it's like it's not working on this piano or it's not working
Yes.
with this string, right? And that sounds
Yeah.
like a useful approach to try and see is that what's going on, right? When I'm trying to settle the string and it just seems like it's behaving
Different.
differently than
Yeah.
it should, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what happened to me. I was tuning a Dominion piano where the tuning pins go straight along the top of the pin block, and then the V bar goes down like this. So the non-speaking length was like a foot long. So I would go sharp like I was taught, and then I would ease it flat until it was clean at the target I wanted it. And when you ease the string flat, the non-speaking length is flabby. It cannot stay flabby. It can't. It needs to be tightened up. And how it tightens up is when you let go. Some people don't realize that, but it has to happen. And what I describe is what I call lazy arm. If you're going flat, but the weight of your hand is actually bending the pin down, you're not aware of it. When you let go, the pin will unbend up and tighten that up. However, on a long non-speaking length like that, there's something called Hooke's law, which means the pin can bend up, but because the string is long, the tension doesn't increase as much. That's Hooke's law. So I would be going sharp, easing flat, sounded good, give it a hard blow, it goes flat right away. And then that's what got me thinking, what the heck's going on? And that's when I found out about Hooke's law. I didn't even know the name of it. I was posting on a public forum and somebody said, oh, that's just Hooke's law. A lot of this stuff I've learned has been from sharing my experiences with other technicians, and they're just, oh, that's just shimming the unison, which is another technique we teach. We don't tune single strings, you tune two strings at once. And you shim it where you want it to go. The whole piano like that. You can do all kinds of neat things like beat matching, where you play an octave, you hear the beating 4/2, then you tune the double string unison so that the beating of the double string unison at that 4/2 partial is the same as the out of tune octave. Then you bring the other string in, you play it, it's a pure 4/2. Very fast, very cool.
Cool. That's very interesting things if people haven't heard of it to kind of start playing around within your tunings very next time.
Yeah.
As they say, the laws of physics are the only real laws. Everything else is optional. You can't break the laws of physics, no matter
Nice.
how hard you try.
Yeah.
Um, well, I wanted to dive a little bit into kind of how you think about ETDs, right? So, like on the one hand, you've dedicated significant time and attention to kind of helping explore this sort of ear tuning process and how to get good at it. But you're doing that with the use of technical tools or an advanced technology. And so, how do you think about, ear tuning versus ETD tuning? You know, you know, I don't know if you have any shoulds. What should people be doing out there in
Mm.
terms of their style of what how they tune a piano and what works best? Or I don't know. What are your thoughts on this stuff?
I just did a YouTube video on this very question, which is better, ETD versus oral? And the conclusion of the video is this. That question alone is providing so much confusion to technicians, beginning technicians, that it's hurting them because it doesn't matter. An ETD and a good oral tuning will produce approximately the same level of interval sizes. I've measured them using beat rates. They're very, very close. The problem is unisons, clean and stable unisons. Students in our program, every unit they send us, we're marking their unisons and stability. And that mark is worth twice as much as the interval size that they're producing. And after 6 months of one of my students being tested this way, he was still using TuneLab. He tuned a piano for a concert technician and concert pianist. And the concert pianist told him that I want you to tune my piano from now on, and I'm giving you all of my students as customers. And that's, I can only assume it's because, and I know he had great unisons because we were measuring them every week. And I believe that's what people are looking for. Clean, stable unisons.
Hmm. Yeah, and also I think on the one hand, I don't necessarily see it as a dichotomy, but it kind of comes out
No,
this way.
yeah, but
Well,
it
I was
shouldn't. It shouldn't.
right. Well, but I was going to speak about something else where a dichotomy is made, and that is you need in-person mentorship, or can you learn things sort of like independently or through videos or tutorials or whatever. I think what's interesting about this type of thing you're talking about is, there could be a disadvantage to having somebody sit there with you and say, that's a good unison. There you go. That's a good versus just say, hey, let's look at this device. This is how it's looking, right? And of course,
Yeah.
after you look at it that way, you can make your own aesthetic judgments about what sounds good and what doesn't. That's what's mattered ultimately. But just being able to use tools like this. like you said, as opposed to just someone telling you what's good or not.
Yeah.
It can be very
If someone
valuable.
if someone tells you a unison is good or not, or you think a unison is good enough or not, that's just opinion. An opinion is the lowest form of knowledge. That's what Plato said. So that's the benefit of getting some other empirical feedback. And it's great because when first you realize that, oh my goodness, I thought this was a clean unison and it's not. And then the next thing you do is listen again and go, now I can hear it. You measure and the third partial's got a wave in it. Wow, wow. And then you play it without filtering. I can hear it now because you know exactly what to listen for. It's very powerful. Yeah.
Great. That's very useful. Um, let's shift the conversation here a little bit. I know we've both been around out here, sort of in this sort of entrepreneurial, educational domain, um, maybe trying to introduce new things to the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
Um, and I just wanted to like touch base on this a little bit. What's it been like, just from a personal perspective, a professional perspective, having some unique ideas that you want to sort of disseminate and kind of get them out there. What's the process been like? Have you learned, what have you learned? What patterns have you seen?
Yeah, well, I'm very pleased with the results I've been able to get using this system and the results that my students have been able to get. But as you know, without sounding braggy, as gifted as I might be able to figure this stuff out, I'm completely at a loss and completely a child when it comes to like talking to people and like sharing without sounding obnoxious. That's my Achilles heel. So for me, um, trying to like when I first started getting these results, I just wanted to run to the top, highest mountain and shout at the top of my lungs, but nobody wants to hear that. So it became fairly early on, not as early as I guess it should have. It became aware to me that maybe what's going to happen is this might catch on, but I might be gone by then. And I had to be okay with that. So what I've been doing is just doing little things like this, talking, reaching out. Like I'll contact a person on Facebook, and if they're a concert level technician, I'll say, "Can I share this with you? I just want to talk to you about this and see what you think." Like I spoke with Kent Webb from Steinway, head technician, and he was fascinated with this. And by the way, he said because we have a unique way of tuning the treble where all the intervals are pure. And he said, that's great and everything, and it's neat how you're doing it, but really, every technician does it differently. All concert level technicians have a different way of tuning the treble. Now, the reason why we teach this way is back to what I said before. You can't have a pure interval without pure unisons. So, in keeping with that idea that you can have a dirty unison and not know it, checking it with these pure intervals is just another way to catch it. So that when you play an interval and it's not pure, the first thing to do is check the unisons. And if you're tuning that unison pure using tests and the unisons are pure and the interval isn't, then you may have thought your intervals were the same speed, your test intervals, but they're not. And that's the auditory illusion. So you go back and you listen and you choose which one is faster. And you'll hear it. You'll hear it right away. You didn't hear it before because you weren't listening for it.
Now,
Yeah. So to answer your question, I don't know how much better I can get at this. So I'm just going to stop trying, trying to convince people and just do my thing, and hopefully people pick it up and want to know more.
yeah. Well, that's interesting what you shared about, Kent at Steinway or different people. There's patterns too to people being willing to listen to different ideas or new ideas or ideas that not everybody's talking about or one or two people are talking about. And I have seen an interesting pattern, which is kind of counterintuitive, that sometimes the folks that are more established or kind of have reached a certain level of expertise or notoriety or something, that's actually more willing to like be open to a new idea. You'd think maybe
Yeah.
because they're established and they've got their thing and they do their own thing and it seems like they're maybe they figured it out, right? They might be more actually willing to say, you know what, I don't even know if I figured out. What do you got to say? Let me hear. What is it? And then maybe some of the more, sort of if you're a beginner or you're new to it, or oh, I'm a little resistant to this is what I heard and I don't want to hear something new. But yeah, it sounds like maybe that's happened with you as well.
Yeah, speaking with people who are at a high level, there's the two kinds, the kinds that are interested in learning something new, no matter what it is, and then the others who are just not, and that's valid too, because for them whatever they're doing is working for them. It's not broken, so why fix it? They
Mhm.
probably have a lot of other things they're trying to do, so I understand.
I've got a question. Let me see here. Feel like there's some other things. Well, first of all, Joshua Martell put the link to Ocean Audio in the chat. So thanks, Josh. And Walter was asking where can you find that? If you just scroll up in the chat, that link is in there. And I can just go ahead and put that one more time because some people, if you join late, you can't see those older messages. Um, and then Walter just asked a question. So Walter said he's tuning pianos with the Piano Meter app, which I may have heard of, but I don't know much about. And it takes
Yeah.
4 hours approximately, sometime even 5 hours. What do you have to say about improving the time it could take someone? He said he's used the techniques that you've recommended to set the tools always aligned with the string and not put the pins and so on and so forth. Anyways, any advice for this improving the speed of tuning?
Yeah, the biggest thing is priorities. So we have a lot of different priorities when you're tuning, and I like to emphasize musical intervals. So progressive intervals, not musical. Nobody's going to play your piano and say, "Oh, and these thirds are not progressing." Maybe another technician, but no person playing as a musician. But they will notice unisons. So if you're using piano meter, I would say definitely like do not spend too much time trying to get those lights to be still, and you will immediately improve your time. Spend the time getting clean unisons that are stable. And that's the bread and butter right there. That's how you're going to see huge improvement in how people respond to your tunings and what they think your tunings are, and you'll have less people firing you or not calling you back if you have clean, stable unisons.
Thanks for that. What what do you think what do you think about the best ways that you've discovered, and going back to talking about like your journey here, if you could go back to when you first started kind of trying to spread the word and be doing instruction, things like that, are there things that you've learned, that you could take away and say, oh, I would do it differently if I go back, or are there just frustrations that haven't ended? What's been your learning process? Yeah,
I don't think I could have learned any faster
sure.
than what I'm doing. Like I said, the introduction of the bandpass filter opened my ears to really hear what was there and then confirm. That's really I can't probably in terms of the school. Even now, I really need. I'm convinced, like as I said, I don't know how much better I can get at this thing. I think I need to network with someone else. I need a partner, someone who understands that kind of side of things.
Hmm. Yeah, I think
So
that's
if,
that's
yeah,
that's an interesting observation. I do think it often helps. I've experimented with, partnering with folks over the past several years in various domains, and it's always a little tenuous to start a partnership with someone around something that's important to you, but the experimentation on my end, I found it valuable.
that's good.
Um, what How do you think about the future of the piano industry, piano technology, methodologies, and things like that? What do you what are you looking forward to?
Well, I think that pianos in general have sort of leveled out in terms of like the sales. We've gone through a really serious drop in sales in the last 30 years with the internet and rock music and the electric guitar. But I think it's leveled off right now. And what I do believe, and I think we talked about this before, is that anybody getting into this business, they can't do it the way they used to do it. They can't just, have a career tuning pianos for, uh, you know, kids, who parents aren't musicians and they hire the piano tuner to come in tune the piano. And they don't have to do a great job and they will be appreciated and they will make money. That's not going to be the case anymore because now a lot of the customers that you're going to have to please are going to be professional musicians because they're the ones who are still playing the acoustic piano and they will not give it up. So, and they can hear if your unisons are out even a little bit, and they'll be very, critical, and they will fire you. You won't get called back if your unisons aren't clean. For some of them, maybe some others don't care as much. I don't know, but
Um,
definitely, yeah.
yeah, I'm also curious too. What's your day to day like, these days? Are you out there tuning? Are you mostly focusing on the educational stuff? Do you do technical work like other things like regulation, voicing?
Mm.
What's your day to day like?
Yeah, I used to do all of that stuff, but now I have a technician in Montreal who takes care of my customers there, and then I'm in Prince Edward Island, and it's a small island, but we have three technicians here, and so I tune on Wednesdays, 1 day a week, and the rest of the day I'm giving classes, live one-on-one classes, and I'm trying to get away from that because I find myself repeating myself a lot, and some people don't really want to do that. They don't want to have to be somewhere at a specific time. So I'm working on like a course where I give you feedback by measuring your tunings the way we've been talking, but you don't have to be in a class for that. You just send me the recordings, I send them back to you and gives you the insight into where you can improve. So that's what I'm doing right now. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I work on the school.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Which is good
Um,
too because I'm always online. People ask me questions, I can answer them right away. Yeah.
right. Um, what do you think of in terms of the long-term vision of what you're up to, in terms of, next 3 to 5 years or whatever? What are you aiming for?
Well, I'm actually in a startup with another guy, and we're trying to figure out a way to train technicians to be able to do exactly what we were just talking about, tuning clean, stable unisons. I'm very excited about that because coupled with that, we're going to start like maybe a network of piano technicians to be able to service pianos in a certain area. Uh, and coupled with a senior technician who can help out with things like broken strings or regulation or broken hammers. What this would allow is for these piano technicians to get work right away, and I know you value that. And what I'm really excited about is that we would then be a school that that can provide everything a student might want, not just education, but employment. That's
Yeah,
that's what I yeah. I'm hoping
I
we can
like
do
it.
that. Yeah.
I like it. That sounds cool. Um, you know, so you're talking about maybe helping to foster the growth of technicians and sort of provide them with a sort of a safety net of how to get
Mm.
the work out there. Outside of that, what advice do you give the folks that, let's say I just signed up today to start learning to tune, or I just graduated from North Bennett, or I don't know. What advice do you give people in terms of their professional development, their educational development, the style that they approach tuning and other methods with?
I think feedback is the most important. You can't improve if you don't have good feedback. Learn how to use the bandpass filter. Also, try to network with other technicians and always take the high ground. I know that it's tempting to come to a piano that's been tuned by somebody else recently and criticize it if it doesn't sound good, but we really don't know this whole story. Like I've had people, I'll come to a piano and I'll tune it and they'll say, "Oh, it sounds so much better than the last guy who tuned it." And then I'll ask a few questions and I'll find out that the last guy did a pitch raise. Well, that's not fair. That's not fair for them to make that judgment. And we as piano technicians should definitely not be. Take the high ground, and always be open and not there's always enough work for everybody. Don't be worried about competition. There's always enough work for everyone. There's always some kind of work. Even if somebody doesn't want to do concert level tunings, that there is that business for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a delicate territory what you just mentioned. I often find I'm actually suspicious in any trade when somebody shows up and like, oh man, the last guy you had, what a hack, and I'm just like, do you really need to do that? What is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the one thing that I've embraced since I've been doing education and especially doing globally reaching education, right? Is that it's
We're
really
still on.
hard.
My, I have to tell you, my 17-year-old daughter and 16-year-old son are having a party tonight,
Oh,
and they are freaking out. Like they're like
okay.
they want the house to be just so. And the last time we had a party, we let them have a party. It was like packed with teenagers. So it's very the place is hopping today.
All right. Good luck with that.
Well,
Sounds
no,
like a
I'm not going to
fun
be
and
here.
also a nightmare at the same time.
Yeah, I'm definitely. Kathy doesn't know this yet, but I'm saying we should go out. We should go on a date or something. This is. I don't want to be around.
Nice.
She does though. She likes the young kids. Yeah, I do too, but yeah, not 30 of them at
Yeah, I
once.
hear that. I hear that. Um, I was saying, yeah, doing the education globally too, right? I mean, it's easy to criticize folks for what level they're at or what they're bringing to the table, but you don't always know what resources they've had, up
Yeah,
to that point. So I found it interesting to, especially when I was in Peru, right? And I would meet a guy who was a piano technician, and he had like no idea of 95% of various things that I had been exposed to educationally, especially if you would compare that with New York City. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Here's a place
yeah,
where there's a lot of information flowing and, professionals at a high level and things like that. And all these people are just trying to do their best. They're trying to
yeah,
do their job with the resources they have. So, taking it from approach of wow, you're probably doing really great with the resources you have. How can we give you more resources? How can we, help you feel more confident? Because, it's easy to, when you don't have the resources, to not have the confidence, not know how to approach it. You have to find a way to still operate as a professional, but it's nerve-wracking, when you don't
yeah,
have all the resources, educational resources. And so it's just, make sure everybody has as much information as they can so they can approach things confidently, do a good job, spread the word. Um, nice. Nancy Salmon, I haven't heard this one. That's good. The more dirt you throw around, the more ground you lose. I like that one.
mm.
Um, all right. Well, we got about 5 minutes left. If there are one or two questions or comments, we could take them, but we're going to wrap up here pretty soon. We'll start to walk it
Yeah,
off.
sure, yeah.
Um, Tell people if they want to follow what you're doing, keep up with it. Where should they go? What should they do? Websites, emails, social media. What works for you on that in that domain?
I have a couple of areas where you can learn what we're doing. There's the website howtotunepianos.com. There's a lot of free stuff there. The International Piano Technicians School.com has all the units that students will work through. That's you don't have to join. You can just go and click on the units and see them. The IPTS.online website has more information. It looks a bit better. It's my newer website. I have the How to Tune Pianos for Beginners public Facebook group. Also, YouTube. I have How to Tune Pianos YouTube channel. There's a lot of stuff there as well.
Great.
I'm around there. Yeah. So if yeah,
What's if people only chose one link or one place to go, what would be the top one to check out?
probably howtotunepianos.com because it has a lot of free stuff. I also have I can put some links to some classes that I have on the Ocean Audio and how to use it. You think that would be interesting? Here's class
For sure.
one. And that just shows how to use it, so I think I'll just send you the link. I don't know how to send it to everybody.
Okay. If you send it to me, I'll make sure it spreads to everyone. In the meantime, Walter came back in with a question. So if you have Unison's very clean, he's going to go up string by string with the app that he mentioned before, and that's why it takes so much time. Is this correct in the way in which
No,
we should do it? Yeah. What do you
no,
think?
no, no. You have to train your ear to hear the words. Meow, Maori. These are not clean unisons. And you can tune with the ETD and get the lights to stop, and then you play it and it's still doing it.
Hmm.
So you want it to be going ma or moo. It's the same vowel sound, just getting quieter. That's a clean unison.
Perfect. That's a great description. Appreciate it. We're just about out of time here, so I'm going to do our outro and we'll say goodbye. It's
Great.
definitely been a pleasure to have you here today.
It's been an
Um,
honor, and thank you very much for asking me to join you.
yeah, of course. So we have reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. Thanks, of course, to Mark Cerisano for joining us today. As always, we are brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. For those of you that joined us today by signing up for this session individually, make your life convenient. Subscribe to Piano Tech Radio Hour, just $16 a month. Get the recording of today's session in our member area, automatic registration for each week's new session. You could sign up for Piano Tech Radio Hour at bit.ly/join PTRH. That's bit.ly/join PTRH. And then just a reminder of some other things to check out. Make sure you go to Piano Technicians Masterclass.substack.com and you can see some of the blog articles we're putting out. That will also help get you educated on what kind of content we have in our archives in our member area, give you a taste of the knowledge contained. Hopefully you'll walk away with something useful either way. And make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We get quite a bit of activity on Facebook, but also LinkedIn and then a little bit on Instagram as well. It'd be great to have your support there. And then also look out for this masterclass with Jason Castle. You'll see links for it in our email. I'll put some links out there in the chat. He's going to talk about harpsichords and how to approach those mysterious beasts with professionalism and confidence. Okay, thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate it. Thanks everyone for joining in the audience, and we'll see
Thanks,
you again
everyone.
next time. All right,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye.
See you later.